everybody. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Get Ready. And today, my guest is someone who my wife actually met at a seminar years ago, and they hit it off, became friends. And then we were getting involved in doing a summit, and my wife invited this woman to join us because she's so fantastic at what she does. And then I thought, I want to share her on my show. And so I'm very happy to have with me Carol Hunter. Hey, Carol.
Hi, Brad. How are you today?
I'm excellent, thanks. How about you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for asking.
Excellent. Well, first, let me tell folks a little bit about you. So, Carol Hunter, affectionately known as the Money Mender, is a personal finance expert, author of Debt Free Forever, founder of Carol Hunter Global, and an ordained minister. After 16 years as a corporate accountant and controller, she followed her passion to help women achieve money freedom, accumulate wealth, and establish small businesses. For over 30 years, this pioneer and the leading lady of financial transformation has used her financial expertise and international platform to equip and empower her audiences with money strategies and sound advice to achieve their financial and business dreams through her live events and financial education programs. She's featured regularly on TBN and Atlanta Live networks, a featured finance expert on the Fox network, and has self-published 2 books, and has spoken on all kinds of stages at colleges and churches and corporate events, and today on my show, Get Ready. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Brad. I'm really honored. I really am. Thank you.
Well, I'm excited to have you share your financial expertise with folks to help them get ready to be debt-free, accumulate wealth, and all those fantastic things you teach folks. So I guess to make it topical and relevant, as we find ourselves in a bit of a challenging situation right now with the pandemic and how that has not only affected people's health, but has affected even more people financially, especially putting a lot of people out of work and causing all kinds of chaos. So from your expertise, what is the biggest revelation from all of this?
Well, for me, Brad, I've been in this work now for about 33 years. And one of the messages that I don't care what level you're at in life, what your income levels or streams are, one thing that's paramount for me in my teaching is this. Everyone should work really hard to have an emergency reserve savings. And I've always said for 3 decades, just in case you lose your income, everything shuts down abruptly, and you don't know where your next money stream is going to come from. If you have at least 3 months of whatever your monthly expenses are saved somewhere, ready for you to use that cash flow, that will alleviate a lot of the stress that you're going to encounter when you lose a job or lose a spouse or whatever the situation is. So here we are now in the year of 2020. That thing that I have preached for 33 years actually came to pass.
Yeah.
While my audience is majority female, women and men are realizing like never before, whether they got a W-2, a 1099, or were self-employed in their small business, across the board. People are now realizing that if I had my own personal financial stimulus, which would be your emergency reserve savings, you would not be so overwhelmed by all of the bipartisan confusion that is taking place in Washington right now, which is dictating for these families that don't have any other means now that they've lost their job. There wouldn't be such a hardship and a concern and a sense of hurry up and do it if you just had that pile of money over there on reserve.
Yeah, nothing like a rainy day to show us why we should have had a rainy day fund.
Yes, and I'm telling you, from a statistical perspective, it is suggested that in the world we live in today, you have 6 to 12 months worth of an emergency reserve. For most people, that is probably pretty unrealistic Because if your average monthly expenses are $3,000 a month when you include your mortgage, your car payments, your child care, all of that, if you're talking about 6 months, you're talking about $18,000. So unless you're in an income pool or category that will afford you the opportunity to set aside a significant amount of money for savings, then that's probably unrealistic. But 3 months could be realistic over time because we're talking about $9,000, which if you really put your mind to it and make some extreme sacrifices for a season, and right now, I think that you would have said that it's worth it. The sacrifices,
Yes.
whether it was the shopping trip, the vacation, the new pair of shoes, or the extreme eating out. If you had an extra $9,000 right now, and your company says, we don't know when you're coming back, we're going to furlough you, or our company shut down altogether, I think that those $9,000 would be a breath of fresh air. And this is not to make anybody feel any kind of way. This is our reality. And so the message in all of that is whenever you get back on your feet after all of this is over, because projections are now saying this is going to be a problem probably through 2023 with the economic fallout of this and a recession that's going to happen. Whenever you get back on your feet, one of the first priorities in your life with your money is making sure that you recognize that you are responsible for your own financial stimulus package, regardless of what happens on Capitol Hill.
Right. Right. And it is so hard. I know when you see that new pair of shoes or that kayak or whatever it might be, the new Apple technology item, it's very easy for us to say, I want this now. Yes, there might be some rainy day in the future, but it's like, yeah, what if there doesn't come that day where I'm sitting there saying, oh, thank goodness I made that sacrifice. But now, yeah, that's so true. Right now, we all have this experience. Well, not everyone. There are people who have done better during this time. but
True.
but for the majority of us, it's like, okay, now I know. And now, as you say, when things start to turn around for me, when I get back on my feet, now I know why I need to do that. And for anyone watching who hopefully follows my work and knows about tapping, you might tap on any shame you might be feeling about, oh, I should have passed up on that little luxury item that I got. The past is past, but yeah, take this. And I know that for me, when you talk about that emergency fund, like that $9,000 in the past, I'd be like, well, that just means I need to have at least $9,000 available credit on my credit card, right? That's my
Exactly.
savings account.
You hit a good point because that's what so many Americans, I can't speak for other countries, but I know the majority of my clients are in America, and that's exactly what they've done. They've utilized their credit cards as their emergency reserve, not understanding that's still a problem because if you've done that and now the job goes away, that's a dual problem because your credit is going to take a hit and you're still trying to figure out what to do with the situation of no income. So I don't believe that that's the best option. I know that some people use that as the option, but instead of looking at it as, okay, $9,000 sounds like a really big deal. Break it up into little bitty chunks. So if what your mindset can handle right now is, I'm going to get to 500. Let me just get to 500.
Excellent.
How long it takes me to get to 500. And then once you get to 500, okay, I got to 500. Now let's move up to 1,000. And what I know to be true and what I've seen from an experience perspective is it's not so much even about the money after a while. It becomes about the habit.
Absolutely.
In the habit of, so for people that may not make a lot of money and they'll tell me, well, Carol, I just can't afford to save anything. And I will always tell them, even if you have to start at $5. Start at $5 and you save $10 a month since the average person gets paid every 2 weeks. So now you're in a habit of saving $10 a month. And once you start seeing that number grow, something happens up here in this little thing called the brain that starts to cause you to desire to see more, and that increases your willingness to make those sacrifices. So, I give examples all the time, Brad, and one thing I say is, don't tell me that you cannot afford to save any money. And they'll say, well, no, Carol. And I say, let me tell you why. I said, if you average eating out for lunch every day, $10. I said, let's just take the basic little meal that you'll get for $10. I said, you're spending $50 a week, and you're spending $200 a month, and you're spending $2,400 a year. Now tell me, if you don't make a switch and start taking your lunch and saving that $10, you could save $2,400 a year. I know that to be true. So I just shut it down right there. You have to silence the lies that you tell yourself about money because of the conditioning of what you're used to doing to appeasing the flesh and appeasing the appetite of the eyes.
Yeah.
To shift all of that if we really want to be where we want to be financially.
But Carol, I need that lunch out.
Well, yeah, but a lunch bag,
Yeah.
or just break it down and have your old-fashioned brown sack. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But you're exactly right. I need to.
Yeah. We will convince ourselves that we can't make those sacrifices. It's like, I deserve this. I deserve this. But that's the harsh reality that a lot of folks are facing right now. It's like, wow, I didn't need this. And
I think about the stories that I see, and I'm sure you see them too, whether they're on the news streams or the actual TV or in all of the different columns that are written. There are so many stories, particularly about middle-class America, where you actually hear people and see them crying, and they're saying, prior to COVID-19, I was doing well. Me and my family took vacations, and now we never imagined that we would be sitting in this long line waiting on a box of food to feed our family because both of us lost our jobs or both of us were furloughed. And now we are feeling like we're beggars, and it's emotionally bothering a lot of people because they never thought in their wildest dreams and always thought the security of that paycheck, for whatever reason, was going to be there. And COVID-19 said, not so fast.
Yeah. Yes. Reality has hit us upside the head with a lot of challenging issues. And so, yeah, really allowing ourselves to be more responsible and to, like you said, create our own stimulus checks and rely on our own common sense and forethought, and giving ourselves permission to do that, while a lot of folks around us might not. And that's I think the challenging thing is that so many people have not been raised with that mentality. So many people have not gotten a proper financial education.
You're so right. I was just sitting here thinking that as we were exchanging and sharing, I said at the end of the day, it all comes back down to a lack of financial literacy education. Not to bash the American school system, but it is what it is. In this country, from the financial literacy perspective, we're just not doing as good of a job as we could do. I would say at least around the 9th grade. At that point, in most states, you're entering high school.
Yeah.
And when you get out of high school, there should be some basic financial principles that have been drilled into you. And I know we cannot put all of the responsibility on the school system because a lot of this needs to happen at home. But here's the reality. If the parents didn't get it and their parents didn't get it, we can't go backwards. We've got to go forward. Right. So if the school system, as our children enter high school, can start making these required courses and make it part of curriculum like we do history and science. I mean, I took science in high school. I took physics in high school a gazillion years ago. But my point is, dissecting that frog is not helping me today. Taking that physics class didn't help me today. I'm never going to use that again unless I actually majored in that type of work in college.
Right.
And so I would much rather see, because if I'm not mistaken, some of those classes were electives, but you had to choose from what you had. Well, I would much rather see some financial literacy classes be required, at least one a year, where you literally are now hiring teachers that are qualified to teach the class versus grabbing the gym teacher and telling the gym teacher, because your state says that a child has to get financial literacy, you've been chosen, Brad, to teach this class because you have the lightest workload of all the other teachers. We've got to make sure to get our Title VI or Title VII, whatever the money is called, to get money for our school system. Somebody's got to teach this class. We've got to change that system, because it makes no sense to turn 18 years old where you're legally grown and not even know how to, we don't balance checkbooks the old fashioned way anymore, but to at least know how to use technology to balance a checkbook on an app.
Right. Right. Because unlike a lot of those classes, finances is something that all of us are going to have to deal with. And yeah, so few, I never had a financial class throughout school, and I went to some good schools, but it was just, it just not ever thought. But I had to take courses in things that just not applicable to my life. You know, might have helped me build neurons and become smarter just in terms of expanding my knowledge, and you know, helps me win trivia tests sometimes. But but other than that, and yeah, it's not a matter of again, not shaming anyone, and because we're all doing the best we can, wherever you are with your finances, you've done the best you could with the financial education you got. And for a lot of us, our financial education comes from credit card commercials or television shows like Friends, where these young kids who have questionable jobs have these fabulous apartments in New York and buy whatever they want. So we have been raised with this a lot of magical money thinking, and not the brass tacks that you're explaining and teaching. So allowing ourselves now to say, okay, what do we do now, and what's the difference that we can make for others, particularly those of us with children.
Exactly. And I mean, you said something really profound, because not only do we not provide this education, you know, as our children are matriculating into their adult life, somewhere around age 21, when they start getting the desire for that amazing apartment and the fabulous car right out of college and all of those things. And we know it's a lot harder for our college graduates to get jobs today, especially in this market. But here we are now, we've reached around age 21, 22, and we're expected, without any prior financial literacy education whatsoever, now we're expected to sign lease agreements, or God forbid, a mortgage. We're expected to go into a dealership by ourselves and purchase a vehicle, not having any prior knowledge of how to read any type of sales contract, which is why so many young people get taken advantage of in those early years. And then we're expected to know that the decisions that we make are building what's called a credit report, which, if you haven't been exposed to that knowledge, bank loans, you've never filled out a loan application that went through truth in lending statements and all of this grown-up language that we're expected to know about. So now, somewhere around age 30, when maybe you're ready to settle down, have a family and all of that, and you say, oh, I think I want to buy a house. And then you have this mortgage person tell you, oh, I'm sorry, honey, your credit score is too low to qualify. You need a program. Okay, they should have told us that somewhere back there around 16, 17, 18, so that in those very precious prime years, we would have been making different decisions as we're growing into our adulthood. And not only have we been brought up, if you will, via TV, sometimes the only financial lesson that some people see is the lesson that was being played out in their household. And if that wasn't a good lesson, you see history repeating itself. So you see the generational pattern that now continues to the next generation.
Yeah. Debt, bankruptcy, financial arguments. Well, that's just what life is. Money is the source of pain in the family. And so, and then at an unconscious level, we think money is the source of pain. And so we don't want any more of it because part of us believes the more we have, the more, I mean, consciously we think the more the better, but unconsciously our programming has taught us, oh, money is just the source of all this difficulty. And I'm embarrassed beyond belief about some of the financial decisions I made because I didn't know. The first mortgage that we got, oh, like years later, look at it and going, wait, what? We've been doing what? Ooh, let's refinance that. Get in and fix that up. All the just silly things that I did in the past, but I was doing the best I could because I had no prior knowledge. And so in my head, it's like, I want it. I want this. What do I have to sign? Okay. And paid a price for that. The dummy tax, as some people put it.
Yeah. And, I can remember in the car purchase experience over the course of my life when I was younger, not understanding that, when you get ready to buy another car, you need to understand if you still have a outstanding balance on your existing car. I learned through the school of an education that you don't want to roll another unpaid balance into the loan for your next car. So if you're going to buy another car, you need to really consider, well, what's the price of this new car you're going to get? And are you getting the car because you really need a car? Or are you getting another car because you just like the new model better? And do you understand that when you buy your next $30,000 car, you still owe $18,000 on the other car? The $18 doesn't evaporate. Like, you don't owe it just because you change cars.
Right.
And as common sense as that may seem, that's something we don't learn until we now have a $48,000 car payment, because that 18 became part of the 30 and they got married, and your note is now representative of this new union.
Yes.
Car note. So, and if it's not at 0% interest, then wow, I didn't realize I was not going to have as much money as I usually have, because this car note is going to have me in the house for a little bit more than I had planned to.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. What fools us mortals be. And unfortunately, there are plenty of people out there who are happy to lead us down the garden path of a painful financial arrangement because it benefits them. And they're doing the best they can because of their own issues and stuff like that. So, but for us, obviously, for anyone who's followed my work with law of attraction, it's like, well, then what we just need to do is manifest as much money as possible so we don't have to worry about any of that. And great, yes, absolutely work on that plan. And we don't want to just rely on magical thinking. And yes, it works. And I am living proof of being able to bring in more money than I had thought was possible. And also making smart money choices and being able to say, you know what, I could afford this right now, but I also want to build up that safety account, and creating separate accounts in my checking account where it's like, great, it's not right there where I can see it now.
Right.
Having a money market account or something like that, and putting it away where it's like, okay, I'm not tempted to. That's a hands-off account.
Yes. And see, what you're basically saying is you at some point decided that not only did you want to implement financial goals, but you now wanted to go after those goals in a way that was realistic. And of course, anytime you're setting goals for anything, there have to be sacrifices from time to time for you to achieve them. And you were willing to pay the price of time, money, whatever it cost you to get to that goal. And so now you're on the other side of that. And so people have to understand that your money changes, but it's going to take a season. It typically, I mean, some people play the lottery. I don't play the lottery, but for those who do, some people play the lottery and they get lucky. But we also know historically that people that all of a sudden get this amazing windfall of cash absolutely have miserable lives as a result if they're still alive, because many of them end up dead. I read a report that said within 10 years, they're either broke or dead. And if you've never had that type of money and tomorrow they call you and tell you you've got the number, or you see it on TV or however you find out, and you have no earthly idea what to do with 7 or 8 digits worth of money when you've been operating on 5 digits worth.
It messes with your head.
That's huge, Brad. That is huge financial transformation. And God forbid if you don't have the wherewithal to know you need to hire somebody immediately that really understands money, that's not going to take advantage of what you don't know to pad their own pocket. You've got to make sure when you do that, you know what you're doing. And so when you have goals outside of the lottery or some windfall of cash, inheritance, or however it comes, it's going to take you a minute to get there. And we have to be patient with the process. We just do. I can remember being in my mid-20s after getting through my horrific debt experience after college with my lack of knowledge about money and pre-approved credit cards that I received in college. I remember, yeah, when I got to that point in my life where I said, you know what, this is suffocating me. I don't like the way it makes me feel. And I'll never forget, I still have the little blue notebook where I wrote down, this is the amount of money I want to have in the bank on a regular basis, no matter what, that is not allocated for something else. And it took me about 2 years to get to that point. But once I got there, I never went back because I was willing to pay the price of time. And then I got my manifestation and it felt really good. And not only did it change my money freedom and my perspective and my outlook on money, it also helped me to dream bigger and to believe higher and know that it could be achieved and accomplished by me.
That's such a wonderful point, Carol, because some folks might be hearing some of your money advice and think, oh, well, so the idea is I have to be realistic and not think in terms of manifesting money. And so it's like, yeah, well, dream about that. But in the meantime, just sacrifice and do this because that's the realistic thing. They work together. Being smart about your money is what builds up that mindset and that energetic vibration around money that helps bring more in. Because you're telling the universe, I'm serious about having a positive relationship with money. I'm serious about respecting money. Not, hey, universe, just give me a bunch of money because I'm just going to squander it and treat it like I don't respect it. It's like, no, it's like, hey, I'm serious, I'm showing up, and I'm going to build this up for the highest good of all concerned. Because then I'm allowing more, and I have more that's safe and secure, and I'm able to use that to do as much good as possible for myself and others. So I love what you're saying there, but they really do work together. This is law of attraction training. The sacrifice and making smart money choices really does set you up in a better place to allow more to show up.
Oh, absolutely. And then that financial behavior piece that's probably underdeveloped or not developed at all. when you reach that place of decision making, your financial behavior starts to develop for a number of reasons. Because once you get there, then you take the initiative and you start seeking out information. So what? You didn't get the financial education training earlier in life, but now that you are there or here, you're like, well, I'm going to start reading more. I'm going to do more in-depth research. I'm going to attend seminars, whether I have to pay for them or not. I'm going to do a coaching program because I'm just really not good. I'm going to research the best app that works for me, because we all learn differently. So one app is not good for the next person. Some people need super duper simple, and some people want all the bells and whistles where they have all of this stuff going on in a million worksheets and spreadsheets, and then they can download it to here and they can access it from here at any time. So we all want something different, but that financial behavior is going to change without anybody telling you you should, you've got to, why didn't you? When you really make that decision to go after whatever your money vision is.
Yeah. Yeah. So wherever we're at, we can no longer afford to be ignorant about money. And, and it's not, and sometimes we beat ourselves up and say, I'm stupid about money. You're not stupid, you're just ignorant. And it's not the
Yeah,
same thing. It's just a lot of us don't know, haven't been told. And the past is the past, but now moving forward and seeing this, and yeah, find those resources. And I know you, Carol, have a number of resources, and I'll be sharing a link to for folks to check out that. And yeah, folks, do this part. Do this, allow yourself to say, I will no longer be ignorant about money. I won't allow myself to get caught on a rainy day without a rainy day fund. And not only will that protect you when that rainy day shows up, but again, it's building those behaviors, that mindset, those habits that really create the openings. And then if and when you win the lottery, you're going to be in a much better place to benefit from that, as opposed to have
absolutely.
the unfortunate consequences that happen to folks who have not done any kind of preparation for it. We all
That's
think we're ready
right.
for wealth. Oh yeah, I'm totally ready for that. But the evidence suggests otherwise. So yeah, so awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing some of your wisdom and insights. I know that there's a ton more that you know and could share, but I will leave it to folks to follow up and pursue it, and get that information for your highest good and the highest good of all concerned. So thank you so much, Carol.
Thank you, Brad. It's been a pleasure, and I hope that it will serve your community very well.
I have no doubt.